Alright, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to my channel. If you're familiar with me and you follow my content, I appreciate you very much. If you're new here, welcome. I also appreciate you very much. And what we're going to be talking about is merging with the abyss and what that actually means in relation to the self-development process. But for those of you who don't know, I'm going to be explaining what the abyss is. You can think of the abyss as being like a storage space that not only exists within ourselves on a personal level, but it is also a collective space in relation to the human species, meaning every human that is existing right now, as well as every human that has ever existed, going back to the very origins of our species, and it's also a cosmic space as well. On the more human level of things, the abyss, this space within ourselves, it stores away memories and it stores away emotions that we haven't processed. So it's the same thing on a collective level. Memories and emotions that our species is not processing, this energy is stored away in the abyss. On a cosmic level, it's the same thing. Energies that are not being processed, so energies in association with our galaxy, our solar system, the universe in general, and just, anything that's existing, well, that energy that's not getting processed is getting uploaded to the abyss, or at least that's how you can understand it as a human being. So when you're going through what is known as the crossing of the abyss experience, you are merging with this energy. You are taking full ownership of it, and you are merging with it to alchemize it into your being. And this is going to be a very deconstructive experience. As occultists, the reason why we work with the abyss and we initiate into this space is to eventually come out with a new sense of self. Imagine yourself as being like a hard drive. You have these predefined constructs and certain thought forms and certain perceptions and belief systems and programs that are just kind of, hardwired into your system. So when you're going into the abyss, you're wiping that hard drive clean to come out with a new sense of self at some point. But this is no easy task, and this is something that a lot of people actually fail when it comes to the initiatory process. Because when you're going into the abyss, you're merging with some of the deepest, densest energies that are existing in your system. Energies that are associated with painful memories and energies that are associated with trauma that you probably haven't taken full ownership of. So when you're going into the abyss, you're taking ownership of the darker energies that are existing inside of your system. You are confronting and you are facing your shadow in an intensified way. As this is happening, as you're resurfacing and experiencing all these different suppressed emotions and energies in association with trauma, you are also going through a major ego dissolution. And this is a very difficult experience to go through because as human beings, we're kind of programmed to think we're something that we're often not. And we pour all of this energy into, certain belief systems and certain perceptions and, certain self-concepts that are going to get stripped away from us when we're in the abyss. And the challenge is to just let it go while trusting the process, no matter how painful it actually is. And it can certainly be very painful. So I want you to think about some of the worst traumas that you may have stored in your system right now. Think of some of the worst stuff that has happened to you. And think of some of the stuff that, if you're being honest with yourself, maybe you haven't taken full ownership over it. When you're going into the abyss, you're going to experience this potentially or oftentimes in an intensified way. And the reason why it's happening like that, in that intensified way, is so you can resolve typically, really heavy, dense energies that you've been building up over a lifetime in a shorter time than it took you to build those energies up. When I say resolve, I don't want you to think that this happens overnight, but when you're going into that abyssal space and you're pulling up all these very, very dense energies, the point is to process enough of that energy to successfully cross the abyss. As we are going through this dissolving process and we are processing those really heavy energies that are inside of our system, the parts of our self identity, the parts of our ego that are heavily rooted in trauma are also going through a dying process. They're going through a dissolution. And this is why it's called ego dissolution. There may be certain relationships that you have to let go of, certain unhealthy habits that you need to let go of, certain ways of thinking, ways of acting, ways of doing things, ways of perceiving yourself, other kinds of perceptions, belief systems, ways of identifying with the world. If it's not authentic to who you are, you're going to have to do your best to let it go and just dissolve into that abyss, to merge, with that abyssal energy. Another component of working with the abyss is you are coming in contact with an infinite amount of data that the human brain can just not process. It doesn't have the ability to process all of this information. But although you're not consciously processing it, on a deeper subconscious level, you are experiencing that energy, and there can certainly be a heaviness to this. Think of a space where nothing exists, but everything exists all at once. You're coming into contact with that everything, with that allness, and this allness is actually you. But to the human psyche, that's, very orderly in how it does things and how it like operates, this allness is complete chaos. So as you're experiencing this allness, what's going to happen is a deconstruction of any limiting programs, belief systems, perceptions, and sense of self that is not in harmony with connecting with that allness and that has actually been limiting you from embodying that in the way that you can as a human being. Now, the reason why I said that the way I said it is because even though we're merging with the allness, there's only so much of that we can channel down into our human experience. We are existing in third density reality, and there are certain limitations for a reason. So there's only so much of that data that we can actually even comprehend. But on a much deeper level, we're still merging with all of that data. The only way to succeed in the crossing of the abyss experience is to have acceptance for everything that's happening, and you just have to let the universe take the wheel. You have to have the ability to let go of what is dissolving, and this is the hardest part.